All right. Make sure you can still see me okay. Move the camera. Okay. So from your child's pose, just begin to feel grounded, rooted, safe, present, reassuring the nervous system that all is well right here in this moment. Now, however you had your arms before, take them out long. And we're just going to walk the hands over to the right. So you can walk the right hand over and then follow with the left hand. Eventually, you can stack the left hand on top of the right or right hand on top of left. You can kind of play with those, securing the hands. And the intention is that you're making a long line up the left side of the body. And if you've gone too far so that you feel like you're overworking, then back up a little bit. You should be able to really settle into this child's pose with a little bit of a length up the left side of the body. And return to that really grounded, intentional, purposeful experience. So there is a way in yoga in which we look at the person, at the human being. And it's a system of layers. And there's a layer that's one of the last or deepest, I should say. You can think about the layers like the Russian stacking dolls. It's one of the deepest layers. In fact, it's the last layer of the individual, is the layer of us that is one with all other beings. And I think as we live our lives, we start to experience that as a reality sometimes. And sometimes we're very far from it, right? Sometimes we feel very disconnected and like we don't understand the other beings we share this planet with. There can be some confusion and anger and whatever at our fellow humans. But we have all had experiences at this point in our lives that remind us that we are all connected, that there is a part of us that is one with all other living beings. Now go ahead and walk back to center and go ahead and take your stretch on the other side. We're going to settle in for a number of breaths, so make sure it's a place that you can stay and soften and anchor down and root down and be in breath. And again, you can stack right hand on top of left or left hand on top of right if that's helpful. The idea is that you can really just kind of anchor and root toward the earth so that the line down the right side of the body has a chance to lengthen and open, but in a really comfortable way. So this layer of all of us, it's the deepest layer next to the divine, is this place within us where we recognize ourselves, even in the people that we struggle with. And with the sort of unrest that's happening in the world right now, I think it's very easy to fall on the side of feeling disconnected. And I just invite you in your practice today to think about all the ways that we are connected, that we are one, that our neighbors are our mirrors, and that we are for them. Go ahead and come back to center. Walk the hands back to center. Take one full breath in. And then slowly come up onto hands and knees, finding yourself in a tabletop position. And then when you're ready, tuck your toes, lift your hips, downward facing dog. And just give yourself a few moments in your dog. Let's run through the alignment. Maybe if you've been practicing for a while now, this will feel a little bit comfortable, like home, like a place you can root down and breathe and be present. That eventually comes. If you're not feeling that way about dog quite yet, that's okay. Bring some weight to the thumb and index finger. So really bring weight to the inner edge of the hand. And now claw with the other fingers to ignite the hands. So the tips of the fingers should turn a little white if you glance up at them. Now think about the eye of the elbow and spin it in and forward. It's like you're turning the eye of the elbow toward the thumb. That should broaden the shoulder girdle. Now draw the ribs in and then lengthen the seat back. Pull the belly in. If you need to soften the knees a bit, go ahead and soften the knees. Otherwise, anchor down through the heels, lengthening through the back of the legs. So just work with where your body is today. And then from here, we're just gonna tiptoe or step, maybe tiny little tiptoes or bigger steps to the top of the mat, however you wanna get there. We'll find ourselves in a forward folding position. And then immediately come to a flat back, fingertips to shins, lift the belly, lengthen through the tail, reach through the crown of the head. You should be looking straight down. What we're looking for here is length in between the vertebrae. So the fingertips on the shins can kind of help you anchor into this sensation, space in the spine. Now walk your hands up to your hips, thumbs pointing in. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, anchor through the feet, and hinge to a standing position. Let the arms be long by the sides. Anchor down into the feet. So send the weight down into your feet. Reaching up through the crown of the head. So there are two actions here. So it's like the lower body is really rooting, and then the upper body is growing tall. Reaching through the crown of the head. Tuck the chin in just a little bit, and spin the palms forward. Spread the fingers. Breathe here. And think about one little cue that I like to remember in all of my postures and all of my practices, because it really supports the spine, is to think about the low ribs tucking down to the hip points a little bit. So sometimes we kind of have a flare to the ribs in our natural standing position. I know I do, so it's something that I work with. Tucking the low ribs down to the hip points a little bit, and then opening the shoulders. You just let the shoulders come back away from that engagement. Excellent. We're going to take a side bend. So just step your feet a little wider than hips. Left hand to your left hip, right arm reaching out to the side. Roll the whole arm open, palm facing the ceiling. Take a big breath in. And as you exhale, reach up tall like you're trying to touch the ceiling. And you could stay here if you wanted, or start to shift the hips over in the opposite direction of the fingers and coming into a deeper side bend. You want to make sure that the body is right in line, as if you were standing between two panes of glass. You wouldn't want to touch the glass behind you or the glass in front of you. Anchor through your right foot and slowly come back to center. Right hand, right hip. Left arm out, roll the palm open, roll the whole arm open. Take a big breath in and exhale as you reach up for the ceiling. Again, you could stay here. You're just lengthening up the left side of the body. If you're ready for a side bend, shift the hips away from the direction the fingers are reaching, coming into a deeper side bend. I just realized I left my dog in here, so I apologize in advance if she starts to be noisy or bother us. May have to kick her out. And then come back to center. Your hands are at your hips. Step your feet under your hips. So bring your feet back in a little more narrow, but they're still about hip distance apart. We're gonna take a standing back bend. So bring your hands to your hips. You can have your thumbs pointing in. I'm gonna try and see if you can see the back of my body. You can have the thumbs pointing in if you want, or you can walk so your fingertips are pointing up toward the shoulder blades. So you choose. Go ahead and draw the shoulder blades together first, but think about drawing low ribs down too. This is going to support the whole spine. So low ribs get really firm in your core. Then you have a supported, really integrated back bend. So get firm in the core and then lift the sternum. And really this could be it. This could be where you're going to stay. As long as you have that good core engagement and the open chest, that's where I want you to feel this back bend. If you're really familiar with this back bend and you know it's okay for you to go back further, you're just going to shift the hips forward, still keeping a lot of integrity in the belly, and then come back more, arc back more. So you know where your back bend is best for you. Go there. And then slowly come up, use your core strength, and we'll hinge to a flat back. So just come halfway down, slide your hands down to the shins, and really lengthen, make space between the vertebrae. Tail back, crown of the head, forward. Now bend your left knee, keep your right leg long. So bending deep into the left knee, right leg stays straight. Left fingertips come down to the mat in front of you or the floor. You could use a block here. Right arm reaches up. So variation on a standing twist here. Bending left leg. I'm on the fingertips of my left hand. My arms aren't terribly long, so maybe your nice long arm can reach the palm, and that's fine too. Just make sure that it feels comfortable. That's why the block is there. Sometimes we need to use the floor or use the block instead of the floor. Turn your gaze up to the top thumb. Lengthen the spine, reach to the crown of the head. And then unwind. Nice and slow. Straighten both legs, more or less. They can have a little bend in them. And then bend your right knee. Right hand on the floor or the mat. Left leg straight. Left arm reaches up. Lengthen your spine and look up at the thumb. Unwind, legs come straight. Inhale to a flat back position. Again, lengthen the tail back, crown of the head forward. Use your fingertips to just give your torso a little lift. And then walk hands to hips and engage the belly to stand up nice and tall. Release the arms down by the sides. Turn the palms forward, tuck the ribs down. We'll just stand in mountain for a moment. Anchor through the feet, reach to the crown of the head. Breathe here. Just letting yourself feel really present and rooted in your practice today. And reflecting throughout the practice as we move. What are the ways that you experience your connectedness to all other living beings? Inhale, sweep the arms wide out to the side. Palms touch overhead. Reach up, shift the gaze up, look up. Maybe we take a little back bend here. Keep the integrity in the belly, maybe arcing back a little bit. Now exhale, turn the palms out to swan dive forward. Forward fold. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale, hands to the mat, right foot shoots back. Your left knee should be directly over your left ankle. So if you step back really far, too far, then you'll have an angle. When you look down your left knee, it won't be over your ankle. So if that's the case, take your back foot and step it forward maybe a foot or half a foot until your knee is over the ankle. Now draw your left hip gently back in space. Just give it some lift, some awareness, and then lift the chest. And it helps once you draw the hip back. Now that's not necessarily up, it's back toward the back of the mat. It can help to gently sink the hips, and I mean maybe a half an inch. We're not sinking the hips all the way down to the mat. It's just a little sink of the hips that will let the chest lift and the spine lengthen. Shoulders glide away from the ears. You're looking straight ahead, eyes wide open. One more breath. Start to bounce your back knee. Step forward and fold. Inhale to halfway lengthen. And exhale to bow. Soften the knees. Inhale, wide sweep to the top. Palms touch overhead. Reach up with the fingertips. Maybe a little back bend, but make sure you keep integrity in the core. Just come back a little bit, looking up. And exhale, turn the palms out to dive forward. Inhale to a flat back. Exhale, hands to the mat, left foot steps back. Now again, I want you to look at that right knee. Make sure it is over your ankle. Now gently draw your right hip back toward the back of the mat. It just kind of squares the hips a little bit, that action. So a gentle pulling back of the hip and engagement in those muscles, right side glute. And then lift the chest. Can you find a little opening across the collarbones? That's what we're looking for. You're light on the fingertips, not a lot of weight in the fingertips. The hips may sink a tiny bit to allow that opening through the upper chest. Eyes wide open, looking forward. One more breath here. Start to bounce your back knee. Step forward and fold. Inhale to halfway lengthen when you arrive. And exhale to bow in. Soften the knees. Inhale, big sweep to the top. Palms touch. Reach up, look up. Maybe arc back with control. Hands to prayer. Let the eyes close. Let the arms drape by the sides. If you need to step your feet a little wider, we're just going to swing the arms, gently twisting the spine back and forth. Eventually, the head moves with the twist, so you turn and look behind you. The eyes can be closed or open. Sometimes if you close your eyes, it can make you a little dizzy. So feel free to have kind of a soft gaze if that's better. And just release any experience lately that you've had that makes you feel separate or disconnected from the world around you. So this is an opportunity, we call this Ganesh Asana. This is an opportunity to let go of things we are carrying with us that are no longer serving us or never were. So you can sort of think about those things dripping off the fingertips. You know how sometimes when we're carrying a lot, the shoulders feel tight and heavy. So just let that experience go. Let it drip off the fingertips. Roll down the arms. Soften the jaw. Now, in some practices, particularly in the Kundalini practice, they often do this pose or this action, and they will do it for 7 minutes. 7 minutes is a long time. So we're just going to do a little bit longer, but not 7 minutes. But go ahead and use this time to really, really let go. Let go of those experiences that make you feel disconnected, that you've seen others acting in a disconnected way. This makes space for the experience of connectedness and oneness. And then slowly, slowly, slowly come to stillness. And I just want you to stand and feel the energy movement that occurs with that action. That's a lovely way to start your day when you get up out of bed. Even just standing next to the bed, those nice twisting, gentle movements for the spine. From the top of the mat, feet under hips. Inhale, sweep the arms wide, palms touch, reach up, arc back a little bit. Exhale, dive forward. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale, hands to the mat, right foot shoots back. Now this time, if you want to stay with fingertips on the mat, you certainly can. Remember to make sure that you have the right distance between your feet, and you can gauge that by making sure your knee is over your ankle. So someone asked the question yesterday, they said this pose was really very hard for them. We're gonna go to airplane wings here. And what we figured out was that she was really stepping back way too far. If your back foot is way, way, way back, it is really hard to balance. So make sure that the left knee is directly over that ankle, square the hips, and then inhale, lift, airplane wings. So the shoulders are over the hips, big open, reach back, tuck the ribs down a little bit, inhale, and exhale, arms sweep forward. Now find the neutral shoulders, so gently pull the shoulders into the sockets. And then inhale as you reach the arms overhead. Tuck the ribs down a little bit. That'll give you the integrity to support the spine. Inhale here, and deep exhale. One more breath. Exhale, slowly take the hands down to the mat and step your back foot forward to fold. Inhale to lift, flat back position. Exhale to bow. Soften the knees. Inhale, big sweep to the top. Palms touch. Reach up with the fingertips. Look up where the palms meet and maybe take a little back bend. Exhale, dive. Palms turn out. Swan dive down. Inhale, fingertips to shins. Lift the torso halfway. Make space between the vertebrae. Tail back, crown of the head forward. Exhale, hands to the mat. Left foot shoots back. Now again, same thing. Just make sure that your right knee is over your right ankle. When you gently shift that right hip back in space, it might just be 1/4 of an inch that it moves back. Make sure you have good stability. You can put a little weight in that back heel. You're not stepping back too far. Keep your fingertips on the mat if you like, or lift to airplane wings. So shoulders over hips. I'm really solid here in my legs. I can even kind of bend the back knee a little bit. This wouldn't happen if I was stepped too far back. If my hips were too low, it would be very hard. So just make sure you have a nice, solid, square base. Airplane wings, reach back. Big breath. Open heart. Exhale, bring the arms forward, shoulders in the sides. Engage the belly, tuck the ribs down to the hip points. So we're pulling the core tight. This gives us the integrity to support the spine. Reach the arms up, but make sure you don't have a rib flare. So I want those ribs tucking down and arms reaching up. Big breath in. Full exhale. One more time. Exhale, slowly bring the hands to the mat. Bounce your back knee just a little bit. And I say bounce, but I just mean to give it a couple little bends. It's going to spring your back foot forward to fold. Inhale, lift the torso halfway up. Exhale, bow in. Soften the knees. Inhale, big sweep to the top. Palms touch. Look up where the palms meet. Reach up with the fingertips. Maybe take a little standing back bend. Exhale, dive forward. Inhale to halfway lift. And exhale to bow. Now you're just going to step your right foot back to that high lunging position. Now if you're just working on your regular lunge and you like to keep your fingertips down, go for it. Just work on opening up your collarbone and looking forward. We're not overly cranking the neck or overusing the neck. We have a nice long neck, but there's a nice long opening across those collarbones. If you're lifting, go ahead and lift airplane wings. And now find a cactus shape with your arms. So bend the elbows and spread the fingers. Think about tucking your low ribs down. Left hip pulls back. There's weight anchoring through that back heel. And we're just going to take a little standing back bend in this, or a lunging back bend. So keeping the belly firm, ribs tucking down, I want you to lift the chest and the gaze just a little bit. Feel the strength in the shoulders and arms, active all the way through the fingertips. Big breath in. And exhale, slowly bring your hands to the mat. Bounce your back knee, step forward and fold. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, bow. Soften the knees, big sweep to the top. Palms touch, reach up, look up. Maybe a little back bend, any amount. And exhale, swan dive down. Inhale, halfway, fingertips to shins. Exhale, hands to the mat, left foot shoots back. Now again, I really want you to stay working where you're comfortable working. So if you're just opening up the collarbones, your fingers are light, like feathers on the mat. You're not relying on the mat. It's your legs that are keeping you here. Your right hip gently pulls back. Stay here if you like, or lift airplane wings. And then from the airplane wings, we continually square the hips. Find your bent elbows. So it's like a cactus or a goalpost. Lower ribs tucking down to hip points. Feel really strong here. And you could really stay here. This is fabulous right here. Or if you want to take a little upper back bend, keep your belly engaged and just open your chest. Peel the chest open, send the gaze up. Strong arms, strong in the belly. Inhale. Exhale, take the hands to the mat. Bounce your back knee, step forward and fold. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale to bow in, soften the knees. Inhale, big sweep to the top. Reach up, look up, maybe take a little back bend. And exhale, bring your hands to the center of your heart. Now release your hands down and step to the back of your mat. We're going to take our warrior three in a couple of variations. So we're going to take it the regular way that we normally do in this class with the arms overhead. And then we're going to turn it into a little bit of a balancing back bend with the arms out. Really working on opening the heart space, the heart chakra, remembering our connection to all other living beings. So we'll start in our normal way. Bring your arms overhead, interlace your fingers. You're standing at the back of your mat. Release your index finger and your thumbs are crossed. So this is the mudra in yoga for change, when we're trying to activate change in our lives. And so if you're feeling a little disconnected lately, I think many of us are, and even just on a spiritual level, maybe the change that we're offering today is space to feel more connected, remembering our connection to all living beings. So hands up overhead, your biceps are by your ears. You're standing up tall, tuck your ribs down toward the hip points. Shift your weight into your left foot. Float your right knee up to the hip height. Flex that foot and spread your toes. Step forward onto your right foot, all four corners of the foot anchored, and just begin to tip your torso forward as the back leg floats. Floats up off the mat. Eventually, one day, maybe your body is the shape of a T. Fingertips forward, spread the toes, heel reaching back, inner thigh turned on of that lifted leg. Step back, back of the mat, float the arms down to your sides. So we'll go ahead and take that same pose on the other side. When you're ready, arms overhead, interlace your fingers. This time I want you to take the unhabitual pattern. So flip the interlace of the fingers and let the opposite pinky be on the outside, cross the thumbs the opposite way. Call this the weird way. And then your index fingers come into that mudra, the mudra of change. So sort of a trick for the brain to switch up habits. Squeeze your biceps in toward the ears. Shift your weight to the right foot. Float your left leg up. Spread the toes. Getting ready to switch balance onto that foot. So spread the toes. Now step forward. All four corners of that foot anchor down. And now I like to bend into that front knee a little bit while I make this transition. I'm going to tip forward with the torso. The standing leg bends and the right leg floats. Really lift that leg up off the mat. And any amount, if you lifted that back leg just a tiny, tiny bit, that would be fine. Reaching through the heel, spreading the toes, lifting the belly, and then step back, back of the mat. Release the arms down by the sides. Excellent. So now we're going to take that same pose, but we're going to turn it into a little back bend in what we call a flying warrior three. So it's still balanced. And this time we're going to have those airplane wings that we were doing in the lunge. So we're going to start with the left leg taking the weight. The right knee floats up. Spread the toes. Airplane wings this time. So rather than arms overhead, open the chest. Reach out through the fingers. Active hands. Step onto your right foot. And then let the chest tip. I like to bend that standing knee for the transition. And then let the chest lift, fingertips lift as you float the leg up behind you. Now you can straighten your standing leg, pressing firm into the leg to grow tall. Lift the chest, lift the leg, and step back. Let the arms come by the sides and take a breath or two. Shifting the weight to the right foot. Float your left leg up, spread the toes. Take the arms out, airplane wings, really intentional. Really open that energy center, opening the heart, center of the chest. And now step onto your left foot. Bend your left knee as you let the torso come forward. Float the back leg and find a little back bend. Lift the chest. Press into your standing foot. Flex your back foot. Spread the toes, yogi toes. Active through the hands. Eyes wide open. Step back. Back in the mat. Shake everything out. Roll out the ankles. Roll out the shoulders. Inhale, sweep the arms overhead. Palms touch, reach up, look up. Take a little standing back bend, any amount. Firm in the belly. And then exhale, turn the palms out, dive forward. Plant the hands, walk forward, find your downward facing dog. Once you arrive in your dog, just breathe. Let this feel like home. Giving your body a chance to readjust after those challenging balances. And then when you're ready, shift forward to a high push-up or plank position. Release your knees, release your feet, bend the elbows next to the body and lower all the way to the mat. When you get there, we are going to take 3 versions of our Cobra Pose. So we'll start by walking the inner thighs close together as possible. Press the tops of the feet down into the mat and make sure your hands are next to ribs. The middle finger should be more or less in line with the natural nipple line. So kind of far back so that your wrist falls under your bent elbow. Nice bone stack. Squeeze the arms in and make space between the ears and the shoulders. So glide your shoulders down your back. Now we're just lifting the chest. I want the sternum to stay on the mat. Squeeze in, press into the feet, just the chest, broad collarbones, shoulders back, sternum down, belly down, and release. Shift back, find a child's pose. So again, you can take wide knees, you could take whatever version of this pose you like. I lately have been really enjoying stacking the hands and letting the forehead rest on the hands. It's a little less of a forward fold, but it's really supportive and just feels like a good place to rest. So if you look around, you open your eyes and you look around the world today, there is a lot of corruption, there's a lot of crazy political stuff happening, there's a lot of fighting between people and groups and whatnot. And it's easy to focus on that because that's what we see in front of us all the time. But there's also so much love and caring out there that if we open our eyes, if we shift our perspective, if we shift our attention to the way that humans are caring for each other in this time, that's the stuff we can thrive on. That's the stuff that really takes care of us. That's the moment that we remember we're all one, that we're all connected. From your child's pose, slowly make your way back to all fours. Tuck your toes, lift your hips. Downward facing dog. Shift forward to a plank, top of a push-up. Now it's totally up to you. If you want to use your knees and feet this time, go for it. Or maybe bend the elbows next to the body, keeping the belly pulling in and chaturanga to the belly. So just take what works for you. Lining your hands up just in the same way we did before. Hands next to ribs, middle fingers line up with the natural nipple line. Squeeze the arms in toward the body, squeeze the thighs toward each other, and press firm into the top of the feet. This time we're going to come up a little higher. So just lift the chest, find broad collarbones. Now this time, peel the sternum up, leave the belly button on the mat. So I find this to be the most challenging cobra. We kind of skip it, right? We do a baby cobra or we go up higher where it's easier, but we don't stay here very often. So challenge yourself, stay, breathe, let the breath be even, let your body feel its strength, and release. Shift back, find that child's pose that lets you feel complete release. Could be arms forward, forehead on the mat. Could be hands stacked, forehead on the hands. However you can completely soften yourself right here. And we all have these moments where we question our connection, right? I kept thinking about my friend yesterday who lives in New York. I kept thinking about her and thinking about her. And I was like, oh, I'm busy and she's busy and I'm not going to call. And then finally, I just sent her a text and said, how are you, my friend? And she wrote back immediately and said, oh my God, how did you know that I needed to talk to you? So it's those moments where we remember we're connected. We have to listen to those cues. If you're thinking about somebody, if you have the inclination to do some act of kindness, just do it. Come forward onto all fours. Tuck your toes, lift your hips, downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, shift forward to the top of a push-up. Using knees or not, chaturanga, all the way down. This time we're going to find the higher version of the cobra, hands in line with the ribs. Squeeze the arms in, squeeze the inner thighs, press into the top of the feet so much that you feel your kneecaps lift. Can you get that experience? And then peel just the chest, so broad collarbones. Now find the sternum lifting. You have to add some work in the hands. Now peel the belly button off the mat, keeping the hip points down. Broad shoulders, make sure you're not cranking the head back in some funny way, just neutral neck, neutral jaw. Eyes wide open. And release. Shift back, child's pose. Take your time. It's a big transition. So that's a pretty deep back bend to a forward fold in our child's pose. So take your time. And then this last time through, we're going to take the up dog. Now, if the up dog is not a pose that you're familiar with, move slowly into it. It is a pretty deep back bend. If you'd rather stay with any of the other cobra poses, please do. Shift forward onto hands and knees. Tuck your toes, lift your hips, downward facing dog. Lengthen, pull the belly in, pull your ribs in. Take advantage of this pose, let it feel yummy. And then shift forward, top of the push-up. Slowly lower, use your knees and feet if you need them. So this time, we'll go just like we were. We're gonna go through all the stages of the cobra and then come all the way up to the up dog. Really important that your hands are in the right place. So you need them back far enough that when you come to straight arms, your wrists are gonna be under your shoulders. So adjust as needed. Squeeze the arms in, lift the chest, broaden the collarbones, peel the sternum up, peel the belly up, press to straight arms. Now, if you feel okay here, that's great, and you want to stay, broaden the shoulders back, lift the chest, or press into feet and lift the thighs. I have to slide my hips forward a little bit to get those shoulders over the wrists. So I have a nice bone stack. It should be wrist, elbow, shoulder. So wiggle around until you find that if you're enjoying this floating up dog pose. I'm really pressing into the top of the feet. Stay with whatever cobra you want if you prefer. And then we'll come out just like we went in. Slowly lower, bend the elbows. See if you can hit all of the poses on the way down. So belly, sternum, release. Now I want you to just look over your left shoulder and bring your arms long by your sides. So look over your left shoulder, you're on your belly. Bring your arms long by your sides and release. I can hear my dog snoring, so I apologize if you can hear her. It's 2 days in a row I accidentally left the dog in here, but so far so good. Surprisingly, she often wants to join me for my yoga practice, so I'm impressed that she's leaving us alone. Come back to your chin. We're going to take a locust pose. We're going to take half locust and then full locust. So bring your arms out like a T. You're resting on your chin. We're just going to lift the upper body. Squeeze the inner thighs in and press the tops of the feet down, just like we have been for Cobra. So much that the kneecaps maybe lift. That should get your glutes involved. Press into your palms, lift your chest. Come to fingertips, bend your elbows so that you can lift your chest a little higher. Lift up. Now, float the hands. Turn the palms so they face forward, thumbs pointing up. Make some length in the neck. Press into the feet. Imagine there's strings pulling your fingertips back toward the back wall. Make sure you're not overusing the face or neck. And release. Look over your right shoulder and breathe. Come back to your chin. So this time we're going to take the full pose, adding the feet if you want. Walk your inner thighs together. Start to engage just like we have been. Press the tops of the feet down. Feel those kneecaps lift. Press into palms, lift the chest. Come to fingertips, bend the elbows, get up higher. See if you can maintain the height this gives you, or at least work in that direction. Release the arms so they float back, fingertips reaching back toward the wall behind you. Squeeze into the inner thighs and lift the toes. So you have an engagement pulling the legs close together and lifting up. Think about toes pulling back to the wall behind you, fingertips pulling back to the wall behind you. Long neck. Eyes wide open. And release. Take a cheek, opposite side, and breathe. So you're just resting on your belly here. Arms long by the side. Maybe your big toes touch and heels open up. That'll release the sacrum. This is a really therapeutic way to lay if you're having sciatic pain. Big toes touching, heels open. And now we're going to take a variation of the bow pulling pose. And if those of you who have been working on this pose want to, you can take the full pose. So you're going to reach it back, bend the knees, hold on to the feet. So you're holding on to the outside of both feet. Your knees are bent, your heels are in toward your seat. Now the variation would be, if you can't hold on to the feet, you're just going to bend the knees and point the toes and reach in that direction. And we're just going to lift up into that shape. So if you have the feet, walk the thighs together and really activate, press your thighs down into the mat. Get a good grip on your feet and send your shins straight back to the wall behind you. That'll pull you into a back bend. If you just have the knees bent, you're just going to lift, reaching fingertips back, point the toes. So take what works for you. Last breath here. And release. Take a cheek. There have been so many little acts of kindness reminding us of our connection. People sewing masks for their friends and neighbors and essential workers. People using their stimulus check to buy gift certificates to local businesses and spread them among their friends. People making big donations to food banks. And little acts like happened yesterday where I just reached out to the friend and she really needed to hear from me. That's really a huge act. Just trusting my knowing that she needed to hear my voice. So it seems like a little act, but it's a big act. And these are all ways that we can remember that we are all connected. Come back to your chin, bring your hands under your shoulders and shift to all fours. Now we're just going to take a little challenge here from all fours. Step your right foot back, tuck the toes. So straighten your right leg, step it back to the back of the mat, tuck the toes. And then float that leg up, but keep it right in line. Keep the right hip in line with the left. Now point your toe like a ballerina. Your right toe is lifted and pointed. Now bend at the knee. And then shift your weight onto your right hand so that your left arm reaches out. Now, if you want, you can reach this left hand back and clasp your right foot. So it's left hand, right foot, and we would press into the foot, lifting into sort of a half bow pulling pose. If you can't reach the foot, you're just going to reach back in that direction. So that's perfectly fine. You could also just keep that left arm forward and lift. So go ahead and take whatever version of this pose you want. Maybe you're in half full pulling pose. And then release. Other side. If you need to roll out your right hand, go for it. Left foot steps back, tuck the toes, float the leg, point the toe, bend the knee. Take your right hand out in front of you, so you're relying on your left hand to hold the weight. And again, you could stay here and just lift, or maybe you're going to reach back and grab the foot, pressing the foot into the hand for half bow pulling pose. So that is actually quite a challenging pose. It may not look that complicated, but it's a challenging pose. So if you don't have it today, no problem. Release and shift your hips back toward your heels. Now we're going to take any variation of our camel pose from the knees. So we're going to stand on the knees. And make sure you have about a 2 fist width between your knees, so you can measure that out. And then bring your hands to your hips. So we started the practice in a standing back bend, and this is essentially the same, only we're on the knees, a little closer to the floor. You could always pad your knees with a blanket or a pillow if you needed a little more padding, or you could fold your mat over. Thumbs pointing in, fingertips could point up toward the shoulder blades. It's just an option. Tuck your ribs down, get really firm in the belly. So people often think that an open, soft belly is required for a back bend, but really if you have some integrity in the belly, then you're really supporting the back bend so that it is controlled and not just falling back. So that's what we're looking for here today. And if that means you don't go back quite as far, I'd rather have you experience the control in the back bend rather than the falling back. So start to pull the belly in and lift the sternum. Broaden the collarbones and lift the chin. And just see if you can keep the belly engaged and firm and feel how the back bend feels really safe. Now, if you can keep that engagement and shift the hips forward, you could come back more. If you have it in your practice to hold the ankles one at a time, you could grab the ankles. Hips move toward the front wall. So coming into your version of camel, whatever feels right and feels safe. Slowly come up. Let your hips come down to your heels. Let the hips come off to the side and legs around in front of you. Walk your sits bones back so that the hips are a little bit further back, allowing more of a hinge. At this point, if you wanted to sit on a cushion or a folded blanket, you could. That would lift your sits bones and allow an anterior pelvic tilt a little easier. We're going to take a forward fold to counter that deep back bend. We've taken quite a few back bends today. So really important, specifically with you, Val, with what you're dealing with, I wouldn't come down very far. You can just hinge from the hips. You can hold on to the thighs. Really gentle. If it feels like you have it in your practice today, you can take the calves, the ankles, or the feet, so outside edges of the feet. So really stay tuned in and aware. Breathe. Hinge from the hips. So see if you can allow the experience of hips moving back, chest moving forward. Your nose and your toes someday want to touch, rather than your forehead and your knees, if that makes sense. Breathe space between the vertebrae. So wherever you are, see if you can use your breath to create more space. My experience has been lately that And previous to the situation that we're in, I would often have thoughts of people, you know, somebody would pop into my mind and I think, well, you know, I know they're as busy as I am and I'm really busy, so I won't bother them. And I did that often, think of somebody and then not reach out because I felt they were probably as busy as I was. And I may still be very busy. My life feels busy anyway, despite being quarantined. But what I'm realizing is it means everything. We need each other. Humans need each other. We need contact. We need to know people care. We need to know that we are still connected. So if you think of someone or a kind act comes to mind, please do it. Please call. Please reach out. Slowly come out of your forward fold. Sitting up nice and tall. Scoot your seat up so that your knees are bent. And we're going to Shavasana, so our final rest, with a block or pillows. I sort of spoke to the people who were here at the beginning of class. Now, if you don't have anything nearby, then don't even worry about it. I'll actually give you a way to modify if you want to at least take the pose up for a moment or two. If you have some support, like a couple of cushions or a block, the pose is going to be a fish pose. So that means head falling back, chest open. But before we go there, I just want you to get your support if you have them. So no worries if you don't, I'll show another modification. But before we fall into that supported Shavasana, sit up tall. We're just gonna take a final twist. So sit up tall, find your supports so that they're on your mat behind you, if you have them nearby, and we'll twist. The soles of the feet are on the mat. The left arm is gonna hold the right shin, so your arm crosses the shin, your knees are bent, and you're sitting up tall. Take your right hand behind the spine, press into the floor to gain some length, and twist to the right. You're going to twist your spine to the right, looking over the right shoulder. We always end the practice with a twist. We're just going to let the spine have this lovely ringing out before we find our supported fish Shavasana. It's kind of a tongue twister. Gently unwind your twist. Take your right hand across your shins to hold your left shin. Your left hand comes behind the spine. I have to use my fingertips, depending on your length of your arm. Maybe you can press into your palm. Press into the floor to grow tall. And then twist to the left. Look to the left. Just let your spine ring out. Unwind. Now we're going to lie back on the supports. Right now I have 2 couch cushions. You could use a block, or I will show you how to use your arms if you don't have anything nearby. So you can let your body fall back on your supports and gently let the head fall off the edge of whatever it is that's there. If this immediately is not okay with your neck, then you can take something else, another block, another pillow, or move your pillows up so that the head is less falling back. The idea is just that the chest is lifted. That's really what I'm looking for, is for your final rest to just have some support under the chest. If you don't have anything nearby, a block or a pillow or anything at all, you can bring your forearms onto the mat next to you. So elbows under shoulders, forearms next to you, and just gently let the head fall back. It's kind of a supported version of fish here. And if you have anything going on in your neck, it might not be for you to have this much weight falling back on the neck. In the end, really, you can Shavasana however you're comfortable. So go ahead and settle in, finding what works for you, a rolled blanket, anything at all that just gives a little lift to the heart. I feel like we need that right now. A little lift, a little opening, a little remembering how powerful our connection with other human beings is and how important it is. Now, our ability to see and be with other human beings really validates who we are as human beings. So we are all mirrors for one another. And even in our toughest moments, even when we're not super proud of what we're experiencing or feeling good about what we're experiencing, those moments give other people validation that they can waver too, that they can have weak moments too, that they can have confusion too. So even in our worst moments, we are the mirrors for each other. We validate each other and help each other to stand back up from those weak moments. Continue to rest. Let your eyes be gently closed. Make whatever adjustments you need if you're done having the support behind the heart. Just let your jaw fall soft. The Human Family by Maya Angelou. I note the obvious differences in the human family. Some of us are serious. Some thrive on comedy. Some declare their lives are lived as true profundity, and others claim they really live in real reality. The variety of our skin tones can confuse, bemuse, delight, brown and pink and beige and purple, tan and blue and white. I've sailed upon the 7 seas and stopped in every land. I've seen the wonders of the world, not yet one common man. I know 10,000 women called Jane and Mary Jane, but I've not seen any two who really were the same. Mirror twins are different, although their features jibe, and lovers think quite different thoughts while lying side by side. We love and lose in China, we weep on England's moors, and laugh and moan in Guinea, and thrive on Spanish shores. We seek success in Finland, are born and die in Maine. In minor ways we differ, in major we are the same. I note the obvious differences between each sort and type, but we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. When you're ready, hug your knees into your chest. Roll onto your right side. Pause a moment in gratitude. Remember, gratitude is rocket fuel. Be very grateful for your connections and nurture them. When you're ready, press to a comfortable seat. Your eyes are closed, your palms are pressed at the center of your chest. Sit up tall, reach the crown of the head toward the heavens. Take a big breath in. Exhale, bow your forehead toward your fingertips. Slide your thumbs now to the center of your forehead and we'll bow as one. Namaste. The light in me sees the light in you. Thank you for practicing with me today. Go call someone you love. And I will unmute the microphone if anybody has any questions.